This video, we will continue to talk about how to implement overloaded operator function, then using the second approach. Instead, to implement member function in a class, we will define friend functions in the class. We see how we will do those operator function. So here I want to show you the other operator function is after we create the two date object, date 1, date 2. How about I want to display the date 1 information on the console? So that's why, remember, before when you want to display something in the console, we do the cout, right? So before cout, you can display a string. You can display an integer. So now the same thing. Can I using the cout to display the content for date object? So this one, right, we are not focused on only cout. Here, the overloaded operator function we want to implement is here. So this one actually, when you do the less than sign, this one is we call the string insertion function. That means here, this one also is an operator. So this operator will do what? They will insert the date 1 object into our output string cout object. So this one actually is the example we want to show you. This insertion operator function we cannot implement as a member function. Instead, we have to implement as the friend function. Why? The first thing we will see, here is our operator, right? On the left-hand side, actually, that's the cout. Cout is one kind of output string object. So here, if we want to define the insertion operator as a member function, remember earlier we told you, if they are member function, the left-hand side always need to be the host object. So unfortunately, when we want to use the cout, right, our date 1 is always on the right-hand side. So that's why we cannot make the date 1 become the left-hand side, become the member function. Instead, date 1 always on the right-hand side. So since we cannot implement a member function, so we create and define a friend function to declare and define our operator insertion function. So we will see here, later you will see this function when we want to implement for this operator, right? Your function name still is operator. Concatenate with your symbol. So this one actually is your function name. But this function, unfortunately, is not a member function. We will define as a friend function. So the next one, let's talk about what are friend function. What are friend function? So a friend function for a class. So that's why you can define a friend function for a class. So this one actually is not a member function. But the friend function, since you grant the friend access for this function function has the right to access all the public and non-public class member in the class. So that's what we call the friend function. So in the class, for example, for the date class, if we want to display how the date will display, so that's why I will have, earlier I showed you, right, that's the operator insertion function. So that's the function name. So this function, the return type will be the O string, because earlier we showed you need to insert that into the cout or fout. So they are one kind of O string function, O string reference. So then here the same thing, in your parameter list, you need to have two things. You will return an O string, but you need to get the O string first. So then you will pass in your data object. So this function prototype is the insertion function, operating insertion function for the date class. But like we told you, this one is not member function. So this function actually is a friend function. When you want to grant this function as the friend in the date class, you just need to write the friend keyword in front of the prototype for your function. So this function becomes a friend function of the date object. And this friend function can access any private data in the date class. So we continue to see how should we implement this friend insertion function. So when we use the string insertion function in the main function, they will look like this. After you have date1 object, you just need to use the cout. They can display the content for the date1 in the console. So the function prototype, like earlier we said, your function name still is the operator. So since your operator symbol is insertion, so that's the less than. So here is the friend function, so that's why you need to pass in two parameters. So the first parameter is, because this string insertion function is for the old string, so you have old string reference. So then you will pass your date object. So that's your parameter list. Actually, you have two parameter lists. So all the string insertion function, their output still is another output string. So they pass by reference. So this one is the function prototype. So when we implement this string insertion function in the date object, they look like this. Because when we have the date 1, we have the month is either 1 to 12. So when we want to display 1 as January. So we want to display the name of the month. So that's why you have your string array name like this. So that's why you see here, your output string is the output. So that's why you still need to use the output. How we do that? Because when we do the cout, that's how you display the output, right? When you do the fout, you're still using the insertion like this. So we just need to use the original output. So we pass in by the reference. So then we have our month, name, space, date, and the year. So then we will return back the output. So then in the console, they will display the content for date 1. So this one is the string insertion operator function. So earlier we talked about how you use the string insertion function to associate with cout. So this one we call the string insertion function. But also you remember, we also can read from user input. We do the cin, right? So when you do the cin, sometimes you can have the cin, you read from the user input. So then we will have the user input. So then we add into an object. We say string1 object. So this one actually the same thing. You have one operator. So this operator we call that's the string extraction operator, because it will read from the input string then to another object. This one, when we do the string, you understand how to do that. But on the other hand, the same thing, if we got the correct format from the user, can you find a way to add from the user input into your date object? If the user give you the correct format, right? So that's right here. Then we have the other operator function we call the operator extraction function. So you will see instead of the less than, we have the greater than. Because after your cin, you will add into your object. So that's why here, if we want to read from the user input and get information assigned to the object, right, we need to implement another operator function. So this is operator function name as well. So this one actually we call string extraction function. So this example, the same thing, they need to write as a friend function. So now I need to give you the other example. We use the social search, we use the phone number example. Okay, what we mean here is we will create another class we call phone number. The phone number, when I display, I want to display kind of this format. I have the area code, then I have the area dash, then phone number. So this one is when we do the output. So we have our string insertion function. But if the user enter the format like this, right, I can also read from the user input and create the corresponding phone number object. So this one, I want you to open the example 5 folder from your demo file. So you have the header file and the driver program. So in the header file, you will see here, we will have two friend functions. One is for the output string, the string insertion function. So then your input string, your string extraction function. So then we have 3 private data here. We have the area code, we have the exchange, we have the line. So area code actually is the first 3 digit. So then exchange is the next 3 digit. The phone number is the line number. So then here we will show you how you will do that. So of course, if you have this 3 private data, right? So our string insertion function very similar like earlier we showed you. So then you will see here your string insertion function. We have the output string out. We need to pass in our number, phone number. So that's why you see your C out. They will display like this. You have the parentheses with the area code. Then you have your number exchange, then dash number line. So this one actually, when you do your driver program, it's very clear. You can see we can just display to the C out phone. Yeah, that's our phone number object. Okay. But one thing is how to do the C in. We need to be more specific. So that's why we need to see, because we want to extract from the user input, right? So earlier we see the C out, the output string insertion function example already. So then we go back to see our C in, how we will implement our string insertion function. So our input string extraction function, the function name is operator, greater. Okay, so then our return is something like C in, F in. So that's why they are input string, because we can do from the console input string or from the file input string. So the same thing, they have 2 parameter list. The first one is input string reference, then is your phone number. Okay, so we see how we will implement that. When we implement that, I want to show you the output first. Because when we ask the user, please enter the phone number in this font. So then we show you need to have the first 3 digits in a parenthesis. So this one I will read into the area code. So then I have the next 3 into the exchange. So the next 4 is the line. So that's why when we read from the user input, actually those parentheses and the dash is just our delimiter. So we need to try to extract from the user input to get the 3 parts: area code, exchange, and the line. So that's why here when we implement our input string extraction function, we need to try to do is, that's our extraction function. You see, we need to, the first thing, ignore the first parentheses. So then when we do the input string, we try to read into the area code, right? You see here, when we do the input, when we do the C in, you can set the width as well. That means I need to read 3 digits. So that I save in the area code. So the same thing, I ignore the close parentheses. So the next 3 will be exchange. So that ignore the dash. So the last 4 will be the line using the set.